his birthday today, so if anybody wants a cake and can eat them, then they're over there. Either during the meeting or take them away with you. Okay.
I took two.
Say that again, sorry.
I took two instead of one.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. There's a few people standing down. So fine. Right. First of all, can I have the instructions, Wendy, please?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Slade, Councillor Burden and Sue Summers. Thank you.
Before we start the meeting proper, there are a few different places around the table, so can we go around then and introduce ourselves? Obviously, I'm Councillor Pete Hughes from Sandwell, Chair for the meeting this today.
Wendy Slater, Governance Services.
Roger Owen at Law Governance.
Unit on the mics. Councillor Steve Clark, Dudley.
Ed Bradburn, West Midlands Development Capital.
Gerald Galloway, West Midland Development Company.
John Hall, West Midlands Combined Authority.
Councillor Madden with Birmingham City Council.
From Coventry City Council, here for agenda item 5.
Councillor Mark Stader, Walsall Council.
Mark Smith, Chairman of the ARAC Committee, here in an observer capacity.
Councillor Jim O'Bourne from Coventry.
Business and WSA Finance in behalf of the Horn.
Ian Martin, Investment Director, Miners.
The people that are joining us remotely.
You have to kind of name them.
Anybody want to start?
Be limited to council.
Okay. No councillors there. Okay. Thanks very much. Right. We'll start off with the minute. Sorry, any declarations of interest, please? Anyone? Thank you. The minutes of the 10th of March. Does everybody accept them as a record?
Yeah.
Right, go to the investment programme update, which I'm going to in.
Thank you, Chair. The funding commitment as at end of February was unchanged at 848.3 million. First available 871 million as approved by CA board, with the difference between the two being earmarked contributions approved by the CA board. Costs incurred or the drawings at the end of February as at 694.1 million. Since the last board meeting, CA officers have not exercised delegated powers to approve new business case for paying funds that can otherwise come to board. As previously reported, and now confirmed in writing and note in the pack, MHCLG have removed the future 5-year gateway reviews for an investment programme, replaced them with what they call an annual conversation, mostly updating MHCLG on the performance and the governance of the investment programme. That arrangement only applies to what they describe as mature combined authorities. Move on to the dashboard. Unless there's any questions.
Any questions on that? What are sorry, no? Okay.
Okay. So as usual, we've got the dashboard in. There's 84 projects, 30 have reached a completion stage of funding, subject to evaluation. The dashboard records the funding allocated across the projects, together with the approved date, project completion, and the anticipated date, now provided by the sponsor on an updated basis. We have red status out of the 54 live projects for 10 projects. That's a significant reduction from where we were just before Christmas of 23 projects. They're all on completion dates. There's 4 remaining under the Solihull UKC infrastructure package. There are 4 rated, still 4 Coventry, recall the board have received the presentation about where those projects were, change requests have been submitted. But there's no response so far, queries raised, so we can actually box over and document that. The two TFWM projects require a change request. One is the Metro project Birmingham East Side, which can be removed subject to the full business case being approved. You'll see in your pack today, we have got the start of that with a change request in Birmingham East Side. And then there's the Southern Coalfield project, which is on hold, but still, as I remind colleagues, requires a full request for an extension. It's not standing there.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Any comments from anybody on the board? The only thing I would say is obviously these tend to remain or have remained over the last few meetings, and I was wondering whether there are any particular problems that stop some of these extensions being requested. You know, the request for information that have been outstanding for a few months. Is there any problem with the different parts of the organisation providing it?
You might have John who's here from a different outfit, but I believe that the requests have gone second time.
Regarding yourself, package, there's dialogue ongoing. I think we've offered a meeting to Ian's team because, quite frankly, there's some misunderstanding in some of the comments coming back. And also, if there were some information from Warwickshire in terms of the Stirling Junction and you know, the line design which they're producing to close out that I think that's scheme. So I think we've offered a meeting that which, you know, would hopefully make it a bit easier to go through things rather than email back and forth.
Is it possible to set a date by which these can be resolved? Do you think you put?
I mean, I'm sure John can give, you know, chapter and verse about this, but I just have to say that whilst this has got Coventry's name to it, most of this is not in Coventry, and I've made this point before, and it's out of John's, it's out of our control. And, you know, if it, in another day, you know, if I'd been responsible, I would not have allowed this to have happened the way it's happened. And I just make that point. I would just ask that officers, yeah, rather than write great long reports and take a lot of people's time, pick up the phone to John and his team. If there needs to be a meeting to resolve it and understand what it is, sort that out and then take it forward. But the very fact that, you know, the reasons are out of our control, but it keeps coming up and it puts Coventry in a bad light, I don't think is right and I don't think it's fair. And I just have to make that point.
You know, I think that point is accepted. You know, I was just wondering whether we can facilitate a meeting with Coventry and Warwickshire to try and resolve it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I believed that had been done in the big meetings, but I will provide after this an explanation where that is.
Okay.
Victor, if I might, sorry.
Yeah.
Picking up on what Jim and yourself said, I think it'd be very useful if you use the way to the investment board to suggest that this, well, not to suggest, to state this item has come up several times with Warwickshire being a key influencer into it, that they come to the table quite quickly. You know, rather than prevaricate and exchange of mails between Coventry and Warwickshire, make it the investment board and Warwickshire.
Yes, and I think I'll attend that meeting if it's convenient. The other two that concern, obviously we'll have to have a word with Solihull about that there too, and if we can possibly do an email with the weight of the board behind it to try and resolve those issues. But the two relating to the transport for West Midlands, there's no one here to mark on those. Yeah, do you know?
No, so I can follow up with colleagues. As I say, one should be Bridgeship soon, which is Birmingham East Side extension, which in the pack kind of details the issues largely HS2 and passing underneath the station that they're in the process of building. But regardless of that, we still need the change that's dealt with, and the extension, the FBC should deal with that. Southern Coalfield, we will note the dissatisfaction from the investment board that it's not removed, because it is just a change of request that extends time. As I say, project's not spending, so we're not at risk. It needs to be formalised. We can't have treating internal projects any differently than we would do external ones.
I think we've got a resolution there. I do accept that it's not in Coventry's demand on title that way. So you know, I accept that. Okay. So if everybody's happy with that, I think the answers were just for now to you. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Next item, which is the Coventry Bay platform. Item 5, let's target Russell from John.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairman. I'll just introduce this from Transport for West Midlands CA perspective. This paper has been produced by Coventry City Council in respect to the Bay platform in response to a request at Investment Board last March for an update and to produce a delivery plan for taking the Bay platform forward. So the proposals are outlined in the paper. John is available in the room with you to talk them through. But just to say, from a Transport for West Midlands perspective, I think we support the proposed approach that Coventry are proposing here as probably the only realistic and pragmatic way of moving this forward. So thank you, and I'll hand over to John.
Okay, thanks, Toby. Yeah, the paper sets out the background. Obviously, Bay platform has been supported a number of times over the years. Change control for the station master plan in 2020, and then the most recent change control in 2025. So it fulfills the obligation to come back sort of by, in effect, end of March 2022. Sort of update you in terms of the progress. A lot of work with Midlands Connect and West Midlands Rail executives, so Toby and colleagues, on identifying how best to bring Bay platform through, but also there's been some work reviewing whether Bay platform is needed in the light of the massive changes that have been in the rail industry since 2020. So the change in patronage demands from pandemic and change in working since then. And we all know that rail patronage hasn't been good to the levels they were at before. But also sort of looking at the structure of the rail industry and sort of implications for British Rail going forward and taking over the function of Network Rail. I have to say, we have had frustrations over the years with Network Rail in terms of their processes, their ways of working, and that is certainly, we have gone back and challenged in terms of the cost estimates they've provided for Bay. But working with Midlands Connect in the study, it's clear that Bay platform is fundamental to delivering enhanced rail services between Coventry, Nuneaton, but also through to the East Midlands, so Leicester and Nottingham corridor, which is poorly served at the moment. And so there was a launch event from Midlands Connect at the end of February, which is the reason why the timing of the report got back one cycle. Setting out the strategic outline business case for those services and the Bay platform as part of the infrastructure needed to deliver it. So that's what we set out in the paper. That business case has been submitted to DfT, and we're kind of now in the hands of the process of the DfT in terms of them releasing funding to work up more detail. The timeline set out in the report is sort of achievable, but also optimistic given the state of the rail industry. But that's what we've got to work with at the moment. So there is a route to delivering Bay platform by 2031 in line with the commitments. There is a funding route there, but there's also a lot of uncertainty around that in terms of the rail industry as a whole and how it's structured. But we're in the process and we're working through that.
Thank you. I think it's evident that, from the connection we're trying to make with the East Midlands Combined Authority, that this is like a vital project that, it would help the situation in terms of connectivity, wouldn't it? So from that point of view, you know, I think any attempts that we can get to draw down that funding, I would hope that the Department for Transport are actually in favour of this and giving positive noises. I would hope so. Anyway, Jim, can I go up to you?
Yeah, at the risk of undermining your optimism, Peter, and it's worth, just for colleagues, just to put some of this in perspective, because I know that it hasn't really been described, but the actual plan for a Bay platform, a Coventry station, has been on the starting block since 2005, and in fact it was part of the original plans for the Ricoh Arena, which is the CBS Arena as it is now. And in simple terms, it's about putting a platform away from the West Coast main line so that more trains that want to go to Nuneaton and on to Leicester and Nottingham and all the rest of it can actually stop and pick people up without holding up the West Coast main line from London through to Wolverhampton. And as part of the plans for the Ricoh, that was planned there, and then it was knocked back by Network Rail. And then, of course, I wasn't even on the council. I was probably still at bloody school when all this started. But then if you fast forward to 2017, when we agreed the plans for Coventry Station, and it is identified in this report that as part of the funding from the Combined Authority, in order to deliver the station, part of that was the Bay platform. And there was monies identified at that time that everybody agreed, including Network Rail, of £10 million, £5 million from the CA. Anyway, by the time we got to it, they had decided it was 20 million, £25 million. But not only that, just to graphically illustrate it, what they have done, and I say this publicly, they have deliberately gone out of their way to try and use the opportunity for a Bay platform to upgrade some of their systems and some of their signalling and all the rest of it in order to bring the cost up. And I've met with Network Rail, along with officers such as John and others, going back a number of years, along with different organisations, the DFT, and they've all promised they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And you know what? They have failed abysmally. And when John says they are a difficult organisation to work with, I can tell you, I don't think they're difficult. I think they're downright impossible. Because all we're talking about is it's not that difficult. But they have made it as difficult as it can be. And what annoys me is that we delivered, a fantastic station that responded to the increase in footfall prior to COVID. A lot of it has come back subject to COVID. After COVID, our old station was built back in the 60s for a footfall of about 1-2 million a year passengers. We were getting over 7.5 million. The new station is there, can potentially support growth into the mid 20 millions per annum, but we can't put a blooming platform because Network Rail make it extremely difficult. And when they talk about things like little trains that don't even operate anymore, I can't remember what it's called, the diesel train or something, at some bloody depot somewhere in Bedworth, all these things. And, as a country, unless we're serious about throwing a serious amount of money at this, because we've talked about opening up the links to East Midlands for years and years and years. When I was on the local enterprise partnership for years and years, opening that up, all the rest of it. And I just think that these different organisations, they need to be held accountable for the public money that we are spending on them to pay their wages. But at the end of the day, I see very little delivery. And I think politicians just need to stand up and say that, because it's definitely not happening. If it's HS2, money is no object. Everything else comes second, third, and fourth down the line, and it's really unacceptable. And then we're left with egg on our face, wondering why it is that we can't deliver.
I fully hear your frustration, Jim, and I'm wondering whether it needs some weight behind this in terms of the mayor actually taking this up as a real project that needs to be driven forward in many ways. I don't know whether you think you could set up some kind of meeting with Richard and Network Rail possibly.
I'm sure it'd be very open to if Councillor Boyle might want to take up. I would be amazed if you haven't taken it up already in your meetings, but I'm happy to carry a message through.
The point is, everybody is supportive of all of this. I'm expressing a frustration because I've been around quite a long time now, and I've gone through all these different processes, and at the end of it, nothing has happened. And it's the same organisation saying the same things, doing it, and just again and again. It's just different people with different hats on, but in the same organisations. And when John said mentions about Great British Railways, you know, it's no good just changing the livery and changing the name. You need to change the culture. The culture is appalling. Is it any wonder that Network Rail, you know, they're cost overrun just about every project they've ever done, and you can see it here again with DFT. You know, in another report, nothing is ever done in either on time or on budget, and it needs a culture shift. And the only way you can do that is by speaking out publicly and actually saying it and actually holding these organisations to account. And I haven't seen a politician nationally that would do that yet, no matter what party they're in.
Jim, we need to take this up fully. That's my view. I don't know whether the people on the investment board agree with that. I think we need to take a robust position on this. The economic benefits that could come from this is, I would say, are immense. Yeah.
Yeah, just picking up on Jim, obviously Jim's got the detail there, but just looking at the report and looking at the timelines, it seems to become more and more and more protracted. And we can easily see the 25 million by 2031 being 50 million, subject to inflationary costs and where we've been on this one. So I think it's imperative, similar to the item before, that weight is put behind it to say, you know, to produce the business case, we're talking a further 2 years, and then we've got other things. It just seems to be very, very long-winded for what's required.
Well, to me, it ticks all the boxes, as I say, for economic benefits and for connectivity. I mean, it would cut down, I would say, if the platform is meant to be by the Coventry Stadium, it would cut down the amount of traffic that would be descending on the M6, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? I think the advantages are.
Agreed.
If I might be, but yeah, having been caught up at the Ricoh Arena many, many times in the car park, you know, from a personal point of view, I'll declare an interest. It's a bloody nightmare.
It is.
Having another transport route in there would be a great benefit.
Yeah. So I think we've got a way forward. You know, let's channel Jim's frustration and try and push some buttons to get this moved on. You know, we can't create miracles, but I could do if you don't.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Happy birthday again. I need to declare an interest. I'm a director of West Midlands Rail Limited. I should have done it at the start, so apologies. Just on this, if you look at 3.2 and 3.3, that does clearly state why there has been a delay in the project. I think if you speak to anyone, and as a property for the last 24 years, anyone who has taken any project on, whether it's small or big, involving construction, there's always added cost during the project. And given what we've been hearing over the last week around import tariffs, then if this does exceed the timeline that we've already got, there may be even additional costs because of the materials that we have to bring into the country to have this project finalised. But I'm very supportive of the project. Thank you.
Sorry,
it's all right. No problem at all. I'm just wondering, is this something that's coming up at TDOS as well? Because if you want to keep ramping up the pressure on people to get things done, well, I don't know whether they're on this agenda, and if not, why not?
Can I just say, this isn't about this isn't about decision making, about people. And it isn't to do with cost overruns, it's to do with Network Rail deliberately making sure that things don't happen. Because we know about cost overruns, you can see that in every report we've got today. It's not about that. It's about Network Rail deliberately going out of their way to make sure that if you're going to do something, they want something as well. And they keep putting the pressure up and the prices up all of the time. And, you know, it's about saying, you know, to the DFT, and I'll come back to this in a minute, that actually, if you want delivery, you've got to stand behind it and make it happen. You know, and all these reports and that don't mean anything to me. They really don't. But, you know, you need senior people busting a gut to come to the West Midlands and saying we're gonna throw full weight behind this. That's what I mean. It is frustrating, but It's not to do with cost overruns, it's to do with mismanagement and a complete disregard for public money and public projects.
Jim, that's exactly what we're going to try and achieve, and with you saying it's so robustly and presumably people backing you, that let's see whether we can move it on a bit. That's all I can say, really. Do you want to come back in?
No, I wasn't making the point about the cost overruns. I was just saying within the governance process of the Combined Authority, if we can get the Transport Development Overview and Scrutiny Committee also engaged on this topic, it might add some political weight to it. That's all. So I don't know whether it's worth talking to Councillor Huxtable to.
Yeah, well, perhaps it's after Councillor Huxtable as well to look into it, but wherever way we can put behind it. Yeah. Okay, is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Again, any frustrations, Jim? It's terrible. Okay. Again, with those, I think we just been asked to note on 1 and 2 and to accept the report, the delivery plan as we requested it last month, not 2 months, 3 years ago. Sorry, those are my years now. Right, if everybody's happy, then we'll move on to item 6, which is Connect to Work, the business justification case, and over to John Hall.
Thank you, Chair. So the paper asks for 5 elements. So that's first of all the approval of the Connect to Work business justification case, which notes 5.72 million of funding through year 1, which is via the integrated settlement. It's to ask for agreement to delegate decisions for onward funding, commissioning, monitoring and programme level oversight to the West Midlands Combined Authority Director of Employment Skills, Health and Communities in conjunction with the WMCA S73 Officer and Director of Law, Governance and Audit. It's to note the breakdown of the financial allocations at a local authority level agreed through the Combined Authority Directors of Employment and Skills Group. It's to note that the integrated settlement funding approval has been secured at West Midlands Combined Authority Board on the 14th of March 2025. And it's also to note the funding will support delivery of the Adult Skills and Employment Functional Strategy, also presented and agreed at West Midlands Combined Authority Board on the 14th of March 2025 as well. So if you could give me just a couple of points around what Connect to Work is and what the intent is as well. So Connect to Work, as I've mentioned, is part of the single settlement. It is funded through DWP, and we've been asked by DWP to support between 800 and 1400 residents across the West Midlands Combined Authority geography over the course of the next financial year. What the approach that we've taken as part of this is very much been around test and learn. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we've got a model of delivery that works in each of our local authority areas. So to that end, we'll actually support 200 customers in each local authority across the first year. Connect to Work as part of the multi-year settlement will ultimately support, or being kind of a guiding to say, will support 19,500 individuals across the next 5 years. So as I say, year 1, and we're only talking about year 1 in the purpose of this conversation, is really around wanting to test what that model looks like and to make sure that we've got local authority partners and other organisations that can deliver this effectively for our residents. We have taken a local authority first approach in relation to this. So what we've asked is for each of our local authorities whether they would like to deliver or commission this themselves. So what we've then had is we've written out to our local authority colleagues who have been working with since the summer in relation to this project to understand quite what they want to deliver. And when we look at the table that's outlined in 2.3, what that then reflects is against the number of each of those 200 that each local authority wants to deliver directly, the then proportion of funding that then is attached to those individuals. What I would say, and I suppose this is a point of clarification for minuting as well, just so the table isn't misconstrued, we're expecting to support 200 individuals in each local authority area. So where it notes that Wolverhampton is 0, that just means that through discussions with Wolverhampton, that they've agreed for WMCA to commission that there in that area on their behalf. Equally, we've seen in terms of the other allocations where local authority only wants to deliver the partial amount of 200, and therefore that's reflected in the financial allocation as well. And this is with you to being able to embed a service that then we're able to kind of expand moving forward. And the financial figures and what they are based on. So it's demonstrated within the paper, but through discussions with DWP as part of the single settlement, they've identified that the unit cost for each resident is on average £3,526 per person. So for those of you able, in terms of then doing maths, you'll see that we are looking to then obviously allocate for 200 people. We would times that by 3,526, and then that's the maximum amount of breadth that each local authority would have. That unit cost, as I mentioned, is determined by DWP, which also includes a 7% management cost for overheads. Within the first year, we are forwarding that 7% to our local authorities. So they have the full 7% within those overheads to work with those customers and to set up that service as well. Our next step in relation to this, once we've received approval around the business justification case, is around continuing to work with our local authority colleagues. So we are sharing with them a delivery plan which then outlines exactly what they will be looking to do as part of this. I should have noted, and apologies for not doing it earlier, that the model of delivery for Connect to Work is about supporting individuals with health conditions to progress into work and to stay into work. So that's hugely important. The model of delivery, and why, as I say, there's more complexity than normal employment support, is that as part of our functional statement, it's around supported employment. So supported employment is around a particular and distinct 2 models of delivery called supported employment framework and individual placement support that have been approved by Treasury, which is a one-to-one service that is provided to that resident right the way through over a 12-month period. But as I say, I think it's one where it's different from the normal employment support offer that is provided. It is a very much a distinct service, and one of the key elements within that is around individuals or individuals basically having a maximum number of individuals on their caseload. So it works on 20 customers to 1 work coach in relation to that. I will yield the floor for questions. I appreciate I've said quite a lot in relation to that. I'm more than happy to.
Are there any questions from the floor? Yeah, okay, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the report, I have 1 or 2 observations from Walsall and feedback, if I may.
Yeah.
On the allocation in 2.3, my understanding is that Walsall agreed to 25%, not 50%. Which is 50 individuals, not the 100 individuals, and the subsequent, whereas the report says 100. So it was just a matter of qualifying that.
That's absolutely fine. What we've wanted to do is we've been working with the local authorities since Christmas in understanding their allocations. The change to the allocation unfortunately didn't work with the timelines of the paper, but that's
absolutely fine. I've sort of sought the clarification.
Yeah.
The only other one was on identifying the cohort again within Walsall. I know the emphasis on 18 to 24-year-olds, but we have in Walsall some complex individuals, and we've already identified who tend to be in the older demographic. The wording may be significant, but I think it says there is the opportunity to vary from that. So we're just looking for the clarification that to support this, and we see ourselves following and being a sort of a pilot scheme in the infancy of this in year 1, being able to have that latitude to use the older demographic as our working example.
Yeah, so I've had conversations with Jane Corgill on Friday afternoon. So we continue to have discussions because one of the important points that we've noted within this paper around 4.7 and 4.8 is that we need to be able to adjust our model depending on changing nature to unemployment that might affect our cohort. So it's certainly something that we're looking to do. I suppose one of the reasons that we centred the delivery on young people is that there are 27,000 young people that currently are claiming universal credit. That's increased by 2,500 since last year. And of those 27,000, 12,660 residents have health conditions or note that they've got health conditions. So that's a significant proportion of those 27,000. Where we are seeing the higher rates of youth unemployment, particularly being around Wolverhampton, Birmingham. Walsall has also increased as well, but noted, councillor, in relation to the want need for flexibility as part of that.
Happy if you're dealing with Jane Coghill. One final point, if I may. Just a question on the unit cost of 3,526 being an average.
Yes.
I think it's recognised that the SEQF is significantly more expensive to deliver than the IP. It's just an average is fine in terms of the allocation, but going forward, dependent on the framework in which you do, have significant cost implications to the authority.
Absolutely, Councillor. So what we wanted to do with this is we didn't want to prescribe through the Combined Authority in terms of the actual unit cost for both models. So, Councillor, you're absolutely right in terms of what you state. The other two models, the supported employment framework, unit cost could be up at 4,000, 5,000. The unit cost for the IPS model could be around 2,500 as well. So there is a distinction between the two models. What we have asked for, what we're working with local authorities to do is through that delivery plan is understand the proportion of each model that they are looking to utilise as part of that first year delivery. So obviously there's a conversation to be had in relation to those local authorities that want to prioritise just the one model in the first year. The expectation is over the course of the lifetime of the project that both models will be operated across all areas.
Thank you. In general, we welcome the report, and it's reassuring to hear that there is going to be the communication with the local authorities who are delivering it. To me, that's the most important factor, that dialogue is constantly open, and this report is not used as de facto. This is what it says, and this is what we will do.
It's continued live discussion, and one of the things that I think has been really useful is that we started on Friday in relation to the co-design or joint design of the Black Country model for where local authorities aren't directly delivering, and that's something that we will continue to do to make sure that local authorities engage right the way through that process, as we've tried to do with the entire Connect to Work process as well.
Thanks, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Anybody else want to come in on this? Right, myself. I'm just want to find out what I mean. We've got a real bad youth unemployment problem in Samuel. When you were talking through that, the boroughs, you didn't mention us, but we certainly do have. And I was just concerned as to why we're only down for 130 as opposed to the 200. Is there any reason for that?
You will have, and that's why this is the point of clarification, there will be 200 young people supported in Samuel as part of this, is that the local authority have decided that they would like to directly deliver the 130 I think you mentioned. So when we are looking to fill those gaps, as part of our kind of joint commissioning piece, there will be the additional 70 people in Samuel, there'll be the 200 people in Wolverhampton, there'll be the 150 people in Walsall, that we will then work with local authorities to commission a response that ensures that every area has those 200.
And is there any particular reason that Wolverhampton has sort of chosen to go out on their own in this? Is there a particular way of working there that's different to the rest of us in the Black Country? I just wanted to find out what the situation is there, really.
I think it's interesting, and it's not for me to, I suppose, speak for Wolverhampton in relation to their approach. What we've recently done is outlined to the chief execs in relation to the three models that we're currently looking to do as part of this. So when I say the three models, the intent is to onward grant, but in relation to whether a local authority directly delivers themselves, whether they then directly deliver and commission themselves, or whether the combined authority is then utilised as a gap. And I think one of the challenges that comes with a supported employment model is the nature and skills that are required to be able to deliver it effectively. And I think it's one where it's going to be a learning curve for all local authorities. So I think in terms of the IPS model in particular, we've got good examples of Sandwell and Solihull across Dudley as well, in terms of where IPS model has been used, but it hasn't necessarily been used on this scale. And when we talk about the scale, we're talking about 1,400 individuals in year one, 5,000 in year two, 6,000 in year three. So we're going to see, as part of the multi-year settlement discussion, we're going to see a heightened number of individuals that will need to be supported. And I think one of the real challenges is a resource challenge, that if we're saying that for one employment coach that you have to have either a caseload of 20 or 25 individuals, it's quite an expensive model. So obviously we wanted to speak with local authority to ensure that they can make the decisions whilst outlining pros and cons of both. So in terms of our multi-year agreement, it might be that local authorities wish to deliver it less. It might be that they want to deliver more, but we want to work with them through that process.
I think I'm speaking for everybody here, but I think we're all fully in favour of this report. I don't know whether everybody else agrees that this actually delivers what the current government are trying to achieve, and that's getting people into work. And if this money actually delivers that, then I think we'll all be happy.
Just a point, I exactly agree. That's the point that we're making in terms of the scaling of the operation is significant in year two. I think we all welcome, and it's never wrong to do the right thing, and putting people into work has massive benefits. It's just the scaling of it and where the local authorities can individually handle that. So I think you're going the right way about it in terms of allow key to start with running the pilot schemes through lower, so not demand, but lower expectations in the first year in terms of numbers. And then the scaling up will be the big issue.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. If there's no more questions, can we move on to the recommendations then? Is everybody happy with the list of recommendations under 1.1? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's agreed then. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. Then we move on to item 7 then, which is the virtual investment on dashboard. Can we take the next 3, in fact?
Be extra funds.
Yes.
So yes, this is like 7, 8 and 9, which is the dashboards for SIF, the Brownfield Land and Property Development Fund and the Residential Investment Fund. These are noting in public session, and I will have to take questions that are before in the private session.
Do we have any questions in the public section? No? Okay. Thank you for that. We'll move on to item 10 then, and I'll read out the at this point the exclusion of the public and press in accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972. The public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, as they are likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as specified in the paragraphs of the Act.